Good evening. It is Thursday, Talking Truth Thursday. I'm ADC, aka Darren Thompson, and we are the Alberta Accountability Alliance, aka AB Poli, and this is an AB Poli takeover of Talking Truth. With the UCP annual general meeting taking place in Calgary this weekend, we wanted to ensure that we had the information that we've come across out to the public so you can make an educated decision. You can be informed on what is the future of the province. What does this AGM mean? Why is this AGM so important to a number of people, including the UCP? Why is there a push from people like David Parker and organizations like Take Back Alberta and Taking Back Our Freedoms and the Alberta Prosperity Project? We'll get to that in a few moments. Of course, all the time, we appreciate all the support. If you like what you see, like, subscribe, support us at facebook.com/abpoly.ca, on Twitter at ab_poly. Our Substack, new Substack, is substack.com/@abpoly. And you can always buy us a coffee, ko-fi.com/abpoly. And of course, you can always find the official merchandise and apparel of the Alberta Accountability Alliance, as well as the Breakdown Alberta and all sorts of other organizations to come. And that is abpoly.ca. So we got the business out of the way. Please message if you're on the watching on Facebook or you watching on YouTube. Shoot us a message saying that you can hear this loud and clear. You can see this loud and clear. We're just testing out the new system and want to make sure that everything is A-OK and we can be heard and you are having no issues with any of the audio or the video. So we are starting here with the UCP is TBA. Parker is a performative pawn and not the problem. And why would we say that the chair of the or executive director of Take Back Alberta is not the problem? We'll get to that. First, let's go back in time to the Kamikaze campaign. And that was the leadership kamikaze, which was the cause of, well, basically brought Jason Kenney to the province of Alberta, ended up being the leader, as there was a gentleman named Jeff Calloway who was direct connected to Kenney during the campaign. That investigation, according to our contact, our Twitter colleague, former Conservative MLA Thomas Lukasik, is the RCMP investigation into Jason Kenney's UCP leadership race continues. So, of course, it continues because that is what we all want to see. Maclean's had an article on what really happened inside the Kamikaze campaign. CBC News had an article. And then we had, during the whole aspect, there was former Power and Politics host, now with Bell Globe Media, but she was with Power and Politics and CBC at the time, Bessie Capellas, and she had a panel of individuals from Calgary on to talk about the kamikaze controversy.
Candidate when he was running against Brian Jean and Jason Kenney for UCP leader. We're trying to get a read a few days ago on if this story would have any impact on voters. Now that the election's being called, what do you think?
You know, I somehow doubt it at this point. The problem is it takes 2 or 3 minutes to explain this story. And there's no
As we just witnessed,
against,
yeah.
yeah, well, that's the stat. You did a very truncated version of it. Well done. The thing is, it takes so much time to explain this. And then the bottom line is Jason Kenney involved in this. Kenney's saying, no, I am not. There may have been wrongdoing. It wasn't from
We
my
jumped
camp.
ahead here.
In
Apologies.
Calgary, I'm sorry. Marcella Monroe of KTG Public Affairs, and next to her, William McBeath is with Canadians for Democracy.
And there is the key. So this individual on our right, your left, depending on where you're watching, he's going to come full circle later on as we bring up these points. But just wanted to show that he was part of the panel. And if you're looking at who he is, it's William McBeath. And at the time, he was with Canadians for Democracy and Prosperity. He's been a consultant in Calgary, and again, we'll go through that later on. So back to the kamikaze campaign. Jeff Callaway. Well, when you look at Jeff Callaway's LinkedIn profile, he's the founder of High Ground Medica, chief executive officer of a platform for crypto, and executive VP and CFO for Black Steel Energy Limited. Interesting. Well, let's go back, because before Mr. Callaway was part of these different organizations, Mr. Callaway was a senior investment advisor for Canaccord Wealth Management. Well, the Canaccord Wealth Management aspect, during his time, we had a aspect where they were under an investigation from the Department of Enforcement Financial Industry Regulatory Authority in regards to proposing a settlement of the alleged rule violations described below. So Canaccord Wealth Management, we'll just share the screen here so you guys can all see what we're reading. And so there we go. So Canaccord Wealth Management, from 2017 through 2020, Canaccord failed to establish, maintain, and enforce a supervisory system, including written procedures reasonably designed to achieve compliance with FINRA's suitability rule in connection with sales of private placements in violation of rules 3110 and 2010. Between 2017 and 2018, Canaccord failed to timely file required documents related to 12 private placements sold by its representatives in violations of the rules. This matter originated from an investigation of Canaccord. So looking at that time frame with Canaccord, if you're wondering, they're based in Vancouver and have 85 registered representatives across 7 branch offices, all in Canada. Well, one of those branch offices, lo and behold, was Jeff Callaway. Again, we're looking at alleged corruption. But I find it very interesting that all these violations happened during the time that he was with Canaccord Wealth Management. Well, leaving Canaccord Wealth Management and not going on the UCP and bowing out to Jason Kenney, Mr. Callaway then founded Alberta Cannabis Company, sets sights high on Europe. And this is High Ground Medica. Well, if you look on their website, High Ground Medica has something new coming soon. You look on their LinkedIn profile, it says High Ground Medica, has some information. And just so you might not be able to see there, and we're not going to zoom in, we'll just tell, we'll just tell you that there's a certain energy company that people viewed as well as High Ground Medica. Interesting. So this is the one where we've got the whole aspect of Jeff Callaway, where it says that Jeff Callaway was a senior advisor for 16 years, most recently an advisor with Canaccord Wealth Management. He's been involved in founding, financing, taking public, and supporting the development of a number of companies, specifically in the natural resource and cannabis sectors. So very interesting that the cannabis sector is the Medica, and he's now with an energy company, and his write-up is that he's this big investor or this basically this financial genius. Mr. Callaway became president and CEO of Black Steel in January of 2020 to reposition the company on a stable, low-risk, free cash flow generating production base complemented by higher growth but capital-efficient international assets. Well, let's get to those international assets. So if you look up Black Steel Energy, you will see that, yes, the business offices are based in Alberta. However, their actual on the ground work is done in Kazakhstan. Take that as you may. Mr. Callaway is also the chairman of the board of Western Standard New Media and was the founder, president, and CEO of High Ground Medica. Again, we talk about High Ground Medica. Again, go back to this article here in the Western Standard. Wow, very shocking that the Western Standard they want to promote their president or chairman of the board. And that is shocking, to say the least. Again, we'll leave that with you. So, Black Steel Energy provides update on status of completion of its financial statements. So, just recently, they had the completion of their financial statements, and that was in Energy Now on the 4th of October of this year. And they provided the statements, and it says that Black Steel is a junior oil and gas company involved in exploration, development, and production of petroleum and natural gas resources. And Duncan Nightingale is the president and CEO. Jeff Callaway is EVP and CFO of this energy company that is filing its financial records in He's been with the company since 2020, but they're filing the financial records to make it all legit in 2023. Again, I'll leave that with you. So let's go back to High Ground Medica. Well, High Ground Medica, they are funded. Well, let's not necessarily funded. I guess we're making assumptions here about the funding of the High Ground Medica. But if you go to libertuscapital.ca, you can see that they are offering the financing on this organization. Early stage dry flower cannabis production company headquartered in Calgary, Alberta, with a future production facility located in Oyen. Focused on both Canadian and international markets. And that's with Libertas Capital. Again, more interesting that Libertas Capital is the financial backing of High Ground Medica, or is offering your ability to, I guess, invest into High Ground Medica. I don't know. We'd have to talk to the chief finance officer of Libertas Capital. Well, he's not there. When you go to the people of Libertas Capital, you've got, and I would know this because we're based in central Alberta, you've got former Lacombe councilman Jonathan Jacobson and Mr. Sean Claremont as the co-founder and president of Libertas Capital, or Libertas Capital. Depending on what it is, commonly known as Mr. Excel, the agent of change, all these things with the MBA. Sean does a lot of things. If you go onto his LinkedIn profile, you'll see that he's got his fingers in a lot of pies. But that's what your team is when you go onto the Libertas Capital or Libertas Capital website. Well, there's a concerning aspect there that Sean's listed and Jacobson's listed. Who's not listed? They're vice president of finance. Well, who would that be? That would be David Parker. So David Parker is the vice president of finance for Libertas Capital. Has been since October of 2022. We know David Parker. Yeah, he is the founder of Take Back Alberta, a grassroots movement built to advance freedom and transfer power from the ruling elite to the power of our province. Well, let's just take a look at what Mr. Parker also has been doing. Well, he's the host of the Canadian Story. Him and his cousin do a podcast. Executive director for Take Back Alberta. Vice president of business development for High Ground Medica, which was Jeff Calloway's company that's being run by Sean from Libertas Capital. But David Parker was the VP of business development for 10 months from May of 2021 to February 2022. Now, how does that work? I mean, I know we've got an incestuous province in the business sector of this province. But Mr. Parker is this High Ground Medica vice president of business development, vice president of finance with Libertas Capital. but there's no mention of that anywhere outside of his LinkedIn profile. In Libertas Capital, I can't even figure out what they do. Where you're looking at, go back to their thing, meet the team. What do we do? Offerings. Well, they offer, again, the secured offering on that aspect, and I get a lot of Libertas Latin for freedom. How it works: when you purchase debentures with Libertas Capita or Capital Limited, Libertas, your investment will yield high returns, interest paid monthly to your investment account. These debentures are sold privately by us as an issuing company, and we may also be sold through exempt market dealers, which are regulated by security commissions of each province. That says that they take your money and make it a lot more than you have, or make it more profitable, and provide you with interest paid monthly. Now, of course, we're just alleging this, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Am I the only one who is getting a Bernie Madoff vibe from this? Wasn't Bernie Madoff all about interest paid monthly and making sure you had high returns? And very, very much got a vibe of Comerica Enterprises. You remember Seinfeld? Where Kramer was Kramerica and had his assistant Darren, and they did the whole oil ball and all that sort of thing. Yeah, when he went to talk to the university that Darren was, because this was an internship with Kramerica, the dean of the university said that Kramerica just seems to be one guy in an apartment that may or may not have a chicken. And Kramer's like, with Darren's help, we'll get that chicken. Getting the same vibes from Libertas Capital. A little Bernie Madoff, a little Kramer. A lot of questionable activity. Let's continue. So remember when we were talking earlier about William McBeath? Well, Mr. McBeath, very well known in Calgary as a principal of William McBeath Consulting. Really cool logo there with the WM, and he's been doing that from 2015 to present. So he was actually William McBeath Consulting when he was on with Vassie Kapelos. He was also Director of Training and Marketing for the Manning Center for Building Democracy. Well, we know what the Manning Center of Building Democracy is, right? Folks, we know that. That's Preston Manning's center. That's the Manning Center. Of course it's the Manning Center. Of course we're talking about, this is Alberta. This is the Manning Center. This is where all the movers and shakers of Alberta connect. But the Manning Center isn't a Manning Center anymore. The Manning Center has been branded to Canada Strong and Free Network. So Canada Strong and Free Network is the Manning Center. You see the activities, you see all this stuff. Conservative values tomorrow, or resources, or above, or staff, or board. You get some of the staff here. 3 staff members. Interesting. Your board. Got to have more people there. Michael Binion, Cliff Friars, Jocelyn Bamford, Paige McPherson, Ray Novak, Joe Oliver, These guys are all not the movers and shakers of Alberta. Very interesting that you've got all these people on the board and the staff that aren't out there representing the Canada Strong and Free Network. But others do. Others are very proud to represent the Canada Strong and Free Network. Others, like William McBeath. Well, Mr. McBeath, not only coming from the Manning Center for Building Democracy or the Canada Strong and Free Network, Mr. McBeath is now the Chief Operating Officer of True North. And we're wondering about True North. Well, True North is, well, according to their LinkedIn profile, they're a registered Canadian charity performing research and education in areas of immigration, terrorism, and security. Well, of course, that sounds so important for our country. We need to have these sort of things. Of course, we want to ensure that we are protecting ourselves from terrorism and having security and immigration and all these buzzwords that seem to be really a catch-22 for True North. But you go to their website, looks like True North is a media company. You got Andrew Lawton Show 4 days a week. You got Premier Dirty Danny on there being featured in one of their articles. Oh, it's on the Andrew Lawton Show, of course. In the CBC CEO anti-Semitism, of course, we're sparking the right, doing all these sort of things. Immigration. Let's look and learn more about immigration. Well, Harrison Faulkner is telling us that Trudeau's adding millions of new immigrants to Canada by 2026. Well, Harrison Faulkner must be concerned about these immigrants, seeing they're a nonprofit organization focused on immigrants and immigration. It must really, we must be concerned about our citizens. Of course, we don't want Justin Trudeau. We don't want him to bring millions of new immigrants to Canada. Why is that, Harrison? Well, I don't have to answer that. I think you guys can all figure this out. So when you go to About True North, well, number one, it's tnc.news. So nowhere is it showing the organization that they claim that they're a registered Canadian charity performing research and education. I don't know what education you're performing as a Canadian digital media platform that seeks to provide Canadians with fair, accurate, truthful, and fact-based news reports, analysis, investigative reports, podcast interviews, and documentaries. Where in the hell does that equal a registered Canadian charity performing research and education? So, not only should we worry about all these people connected here, we should also look at how the process of becoming a registered charity in Canada, what are the procedures to do that? How easy is it to become a registered charity? And if you're a charity that is to support immigration or focus on immigration or whatever and research and education, why is Candace Malcolm your founder? There's Andrew Lawton. There's old Harrison Faulkner. I don't know about you, but it looks like he has a very punchable face. There's old William McBeath, Chief Operating Officer of this fantastic organization that's focused on immigration and security. Previously, he was a senior advisor to Wild Rose opposition leader Danielle Smith. You know, current Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. William also worked for the Harper government as Director of Operations for the Minister of Human Resources and Skills Development, Regional Organization for Alberta and Territories for the Conservative Party of Canada, which goes back to your land of strong and free, that Preston Manning Center, blah, 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 when he's Director of Training and Marketing. Again, registered Canadian charity performing research and education. I call bullshit. You got Rupa, who is a known aggravator and racist. Sue-Ann Levy. Lot of great journalists, including this young lady right here, Rachel Emmanuel. You see, Rachel is a seasoned political reporter who's covered government institutions from a variety of levels. A Carleton University journalism graduate, multimedia reporter for 3 local Niagara newspapers, her work's been published in the Toronto Star. Rachel was the inaugural recipient of the Political Matters internship, placing her at the Globe and Mail's Parliamentary Bureau, and spent 3 years covering the federal government for iPolitics. Rachel is the Alberta correspondent for True North, based in Edmonton. Well, if we do a quick Google search of Miss Emmanuel, Rachel Emmanuel, because it seemed to me she was connected somewhere else prior, and there's no mention of this. Look, a letter, warm welcome. Yeah, I'm not subscribing to Rachel Emmanuel. And she's talking about the Western Standard. But I thought she was with iPolitics. Well, let's look. Media moves in March of 2022. Western Standard in Ottawa has hired Rachel Emmanuel as Alberta legislative reporter. She joins from iPolitics, where she was a reporter covering federal policy in Ottawa. Well, Ms. Emmanuel is not mentioning anything about the Western Standard in her bio on True North. There's no mention of her still working for the Western Standard. If I was working for the Western Standard and they were paying me well to be in Ottawa, how much money did I get offered to come to Edmonton to work for True North and William McBeath? That's the question. So we'll continue on with that. So again, William McBeath. And there's his smiling mug. And there's Rachel Emmanuel. Oh, who is that beside her? Well, that looks like Take Back Alberta's David Parker. Of course it's David Parker. And this is retweeted from her Twitter. He tweeted out some aspect of how he's lucky that she stayed with a schlub like him, or which, I mean, you're not really lying there because he is quite a schlub. Proud of my wife and her team at True North. I can't believe she married a schlub like me. Yeah, again, another punchable face. Not that I condone violence, but just saying he's got a very, if not punchable face, he's got the he could play a the Amish in some movie. Just pop one of the hats on him. But that's the True North aspect. Well, there's William McBeath there, principal, and we go there. Well, you know who else was connected to the Manning Center and now the Center of Rights and Freedoms or Strong and Free or whatever they want to name it today? Well, that's a gentleman named Roy Byer. And this is where things get quite, like the tea gets hot. It's hot tea. It's quite spicy. That Roy Byer is, and people are like, well, who's Roy Byer? Like, why are you talking about this guy? He just seems like some clown that's with Take Back Alberta. Yeah, I agree. But Mr. Byer is also the owner and operator of Byers Consulting. A company provided strategic public relations advice for organizations seeking to rebuild previous initiatives or to connect with a target audience. Although the company was founded with focus on general marketing consulting, working, for example, with the Medican development in regional expansion planning, Byers Consulting has achieved prominence through its emphasis in the political arena. In the past, the company's worked with the Canadian Alliance on community outreach initiatives and for Tony Clement for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. Created things for Stockwell Day and served as the operation director for the Foundation of National Policy Trust. He promoted public policy supporting traditional Canadian values, limited government, and individual freedom. Led efforts to raise over $1 million in funding to support projects such as Defend Marriage Coalition, the Pro Marriage Network, and Vote Marriage Canada. Received a secondary school education from Winston Churchill High School in Lethbridge, Alberta, later graduating with honors from the Full Gospel Bible College in Eston, Saskatchewan. In addition to his diploma in religious and pastoral studies, Byer holds an honorary doctorate of law from Canada Christian College in Toronto. And Byer's married to his wife Shelley since 1982. Wow, it's lovely for Roy Byer. Sounds like such an amazing guy. Religion, of course, that's upstanding. We all know religion is good and all that. Well, let's look at Roy's website. Well, the website is actually a WordPress blog. And in the blog, Roy talks about a few things. Talks about being a community leader, political strategist, marketing executive, high diversified professional background. Serves as vice president of business development at Providence Group in Calgary. Trained as a pastor in the Pentecostal Christian faith, Mr. Byer received his diploma in pastoral studies with honors from Full Gospel Bible College, now Eston College, and began a prolific career in the clergy. Following a 3-year tenure as an associate pastor, Roy Byer founded New Life Church Fellowship of Bow Island, where he performed as senior pastor between 1985 and 1990. From there, Mr. Byer served as senior pastor of Victory Christian Fellowship of Medicine Hat before establishing Victory Church of the Rock in Edmonton. An integral member of the Victory evangelical movement on a global basis as well, Roy Byer served as a senior director for Victory Churches International and sat on the national board for more than a decade. So you look at his blog roll and it says something about foundation capital. What is foundation capital? Well, I'm going to read this story here. I'll share this entire slide presentation on our Substack, so you can go in and look at all the sources that we have, look at the articles at your pleasure or mispleasure, whatever you want to say. But Mr. Byer was under some scrutiny for some of his dealings in Medicine Hat. You know, Medicine Hat, where he was a pastor. We'll go to the Medicine Hat News. This is from Colin Gallant, July 23rd, 2020. The man behind a collapsed real estate company that had dozens of hatters as investors and once owned a proposed local community has been found guilty of one count of fraud and other misleading investors. Ronald James Akins, the controlling mind behind the Foundation group of companies, according to court documents, faces up to 5 years in prison and a $5 million fine. The Alberta Securities Commission announced a verdict and release on Tuesday afternoon. In the criminal proceeding, Akins was found guilty of one count of fraud, one count of making false and misleading statements contrary to the Alberta Securities Act. Specific to Legacy, $35 million was received from 1,400 investors over a 3-year period ending in 2008. At the end of 2011, the company's cash balance was a paltry $11,000. I don't know about you, but that's quite interesting that you went from 35 million to 11 grand. The court found the funds were used to proceed with other legally separate land development projects contrary to their stated purposes. Sentencing submissions are due September 4th. Akins, who's based in Lethbridge, and another company director, Roy Jurgen Byer, also face sanctions from the Alberta Securities Commission, which regulates the finance industry in the province. And Akins received a lifetime ban on trading or promoting securities in the province, a $600,000 fine. He was responsible to pay $239,200 towards the cost of the ASC investigation. The commission ruled that Byer played significantly less of a role in the operation as a marketer and director for the company. He was fined $75,000 and banned for 10 years from most aspects of capital finance activity. His portion of ASC costs amount to about 60 grand. He argued at the ASC hearing that no sanctions would be appropriate. Foundation acquired the Cimarron development in Medicine Hat in 2011 from local builder Medican as the company wrestled with its own creditor protection process. Why does Medican sound so familiar? Well, that would be Roy Byer focused on general marketing consulting, for example, working with Medican developments and regional expansion planning. And this is according to his LinkedIn profile. Roy's been a very busy man. So final decision, all these things, they're fine. They're seeing all this other stuff. And here is the kicker. The kicker is these two men worked as pastors in Medicine Hat in the early 1990s. You know, where Roy was all proud of him being his pastor and evangelical and all that stuff? That's where he met Akins. And then they decided, well, let's do this city of Medicine Hat dirty and take a bunch of people for millions of dollars. So that's really interesting. And yes, that's very, very concerning for Roy Byer. However, it gets spicier because this year, not 2020, not 2008, not any of the other years that are claimed that we have these sort of things, this year, as in August of 2023, Mr. Aiken and Mr. Buyer were under the proceedings of a capital markets tribunal in the province of Ontario. So, order in the matter of Ronald James Aikens and Roy Jurgen Buyer, while the decision was made by Kathy Singer, the chair of the panel. Submissions from Sarah McLeod for staff of the Ontario Securities Commission and Roy Jurgen Buyer on their own behalf. The reasons for the decision. So here is the story. The respondents, aka Aikens and Buyer, had an order issued against the respondents pursuant to the interjurisdictional enforcement provisions in subsection 127.10 of the Ontario Securities Act. Well, when I'm looking at the stuff that was happening in Medicine Hat, it doesn't seem like that would have any sort of jurisdiction in Ontario. Let's read on. The respondents raised approximately $33.6 million for offering memoranda for the Foundation Capital Group Trust. Well, that's Foundation Capital. That's Roy's big claim to fame that he's so proud of, his work with Foundation Capital. Okay, that makes sense. Between January 2010 and November 2011, in order to fund a project relating to oil and gas exploration and development. Additionally, approximately $31.6 million was raised for a land development project in Calgary, Alberta, the SV project between October 1st, 2007 and August 24th, 2012. And approximately $16.1 million for a land development project on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, between February 1st, 2009 and October 31st, 2012. So there is a lot of Roy's busy. Roy Buyer was busy. So on February 15th, 2018, a panel of the Alberta Securities Commission found that Aikens Buyer, the trust, a numbered company in BC Limited, and Harvest Capital Management each breached 92.4.1 of the Alberta Securities Act by making materially misleading omissions in 2 of 4 trust offering memoranda. And then it goes into the discussion and of all these memorandas of Stony View Crossing, Harborview Landing, all these breach and fraud with the Securities Commission of Alberta, and now the Securities Commission of Ontario. Yes, interesting indeed. Again, why are we talking about Roy Buyer? Well, Roy Buyer, on October 11th of this year, he joined Chris and Kerry to discuss United Conservative Party's annual general meeting on November 2nd and 3rd, 2023. So that would be tonight and tomorrow. Let's just say it's tomorrow and Saturday, but anyway, we're not going to let Whistle Stop Chris confuse us with actual truth or any of those sort of things. But he was on with these 2 individuals, and I want to share what Roy had to say and why I feel Roy is a danger.
At least looking at some way that I could be involved in the community and giving back time to the community. So I think that's again, that's the thing that I hope people will take away from this.
Absolutely. So, I guess I should let everybody know, as the CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project, I have a job to do, and my job is to advance the mission of the Alberta Prosperity Project. So the Alberta Prosperity Project is a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational society, and our goal is to educate Albertans as to the rationale and the benefits and merits of Alberta independence, or Alberta sovereignty, or however you want to look at that. One of the ways we can do that is by working with our legislators, the people who make our laws, in order to advance policies that are aligned with our values and get us closer to our mission.
So we'll just pause there. So their mission, we'll get to that mission when Roy joins them shortly. I'm just going to fast forward here because these guys can ramble on quite a lot, and I don't want to take too much of your time. We want to see if we can get this episode in just over an hour. So
that doesn't lead to prosperity. Anyway, so on that note, with further ado, I'm going to bring on somebody who always has excellent hair.
Yes.
And has become a good friend of mine, Mr. Roy Beyer, the co-founder of Taking Back Our Freedoms, and a man who was involved with Take Back Alberta to get our last Premier Kenny to resign. So welcome, Roy.
Well, great to be here with you, Kerry and Chris, and with APP. I'm a proud member of APP as well as TBOF founder. So I think we've got a lot of alignment going on.
Wait a minute, Roy. Did you just say you're also a member of the Alberta Prosperity Project, and you're a member of Taking Back Our Freedoms, and you're a member of Take Back Alberta?
And there we go. Why is Roy Beyer a dangerous person? Roy Beyer is a member of Take Back Alberta. Roy Beyer is a co-founder of Taking Back Our Freedoms. Roy Beyer is a proud member of the Alberta Prosperity Project with these two individuals. Roy Beyer is a member of a lot of organizations. I wonder why.
UCP? Yeah. How is that possible?
To me, we need to expand our influence, and every organization has maybe a different focus, unique focus. It's not a contradiction to be a part of APP in terms of their focus towards greater independence from the corruption of Ottawa. And then also, of course, TBOF and TBA. One is national, one is provincial, but our goals are exactly the same. So we work together, and I think a lot of our memberships as well, they understand that, and they're part and parcel of what you guys are doing and part of what we're doing it together.
Yeah. So we may not be aligned on everything, we may not agree on everything, and we may not be taking the same path to get there, but at the end of the day, we're all focused on making this province better. Yeah. And that's where our alignment is in working towards a free and prosperous Alberta.
Yeah. You know, absolutely. And I think it's important for people to understand that we've been duped by the establishment, duped by the notion that, you know, just vote every 4 years and leave the rest to us. And the group that, you know, it's the establishment, the power brokers, people with agenda that run our political parties in Canada. Canada has the lowest participation rate in terms of political membership, party membership in the world, other than China and Korea. Those are not, that's not a good group to compare yourself with, but that's where we are. Lowest percentage. And Canadians say, well, politics is kind of it's for, people that are not like me. But the fact is, a political party is only as good or as bad as the people that are participating in the process. So the revolution that's happened here in Alberta is a whole bunch of good people, grassroots, normal, family-oriented, community-oriented, pro-Albertans. Very important for us to
why?
Why?
First of all, before I ask why, I already asked it, but let me rewind. I want to point something out. What Roy just said was, and he was very clear, saying that the United Conservative Party is not perfect. I second that. But you said that there are good people getting involved in that party. Now, the UCP there were some horrible infringements on our rights and freedoms. They did some nasty things over the last 4 years. So there are those out there who would say they're so corrupt. Anybody who's involved with them also becomes corrupt. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I used to be a pastor, and I talked to a lot of people who said, I don't go to church because people in church are hypocrites. I said, well, of course, that's true of everybody. We all have our flaws. And when you go into a political party, it definitely has its flaws. But in politics in particular, it attracts some bad players. There's no question about that. And it's people with great big egos, power-hungry people, people with an agenda. It attracts that kind of people. So it repels good people, right? Good people say, I don't want to be involved with that because I don't want any association with that. But the right answer is for us to join in overwhelming numbers and I call it flush the toilet, right? So get rid of the bad with incoming good. And and that's just the reality, that the real decision making happens in a political party between elections, not at election time. Almost every important decision has already been made. On election day, you just get to choose, usually between two bad choices. And now, if we want to change that, we have to at least get involved in one of those political parties that has a chance to win and try to make it better. And it's never going to be perfect. No church is ever going to be perfect, if you want to use that analogy. And no family is perfect. That's one we can all relate to, right? So we all have families that with all kinds of flaws, and that's true of a political party. A little more true of a political party than other organizations because it typically attracts the wrong kind of people.
Mhm.
And I know I was very turned off on politics after 20 years of involvement. I just decided I had enough, and it was a wrong decision. It was because of the repulsion of the corruption, and I realized, you know what? By stepping back, I didn't make it better. I just need to find a way to get more people like me getting involved, and that's what we've been doing the last few years.
So let me just comment on that for a second. So you mentioned you're a pastor and people say they don't go to church because people in church are hypocrites. Everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody in some way or another, you know, I tell people, hey, we should act this way, we should do these things, and then I fail. People in general are not perfect. And that's the whole point of the church, is that we're imperfect and we need to have fellowship with other imperfect people and accept the fact that we're not perfect and we need something better and greater than ourselves.